Glenn Beck. Way to go, Beth. State Representative Beth O'Connor.
This is so cool. I remember in 1988, I had a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I heard this guy speak. He was a libertarian. I didn't even know what that was. And he was running for president, and his name was Ron Paul. And I said, I love this dude. Well, guess what? A couple of decades plus later, I still love this dude, and I really wish he could be our president. How lucky would we be? That being said, it's evident that the candidates that are running don't know what small government is. So I have some harsh words for the peddlers of big government. Government is not eloquence. It is not reason. It is force. And like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Even in its best state, it is but a necessary evil. And in its worst state, an intolerable one. These words were spoken over 200 years ago, and I say that they are more obviously true today than they were then. The truth or falsehoods of one's thoughts, knowledge, inferences, conclusions rest on the truth and falsehoods of his definitions. Rights. A right is that which can be exercised by everyone at the same time without permission and without placing obligations on or violating the rights of another person or persons. Rights are rights to action, not rewards from other people. For example, you have a right to pursue happiness, but there is no guarantee that you will attain happiness. And if you don't, you have no right to force someone else to give it to you. Democracy. Democracy has become a false synonym for freedom. It has become a mantra that has infatuated hundreds of millions of people. In reality, democracy is just another form of government, and like all other forms of government, it is the natural enemy of freedom. The foundation of democracy is majority rule. Yep. Monarchies and dictators throughout history have been overthrown. They're being overthrown as I speak today, but there is no recourse against the will of the majority. Allegorically speaking, a democracy is a lynch mob. The only dissenting vote is the guy at the end of the rope. Democracy in America has evolved into a system of legalized plunder, whereby the government legalizes programs which allows them to take from some people what belongs to them and give it to other people to whom it doesn't belong, and can't take for themselves without committing a crime. That's a paraphrase from The Law by Frederick Bastiat. I suggest you all read it. Freedom. There are two types of action: voluntary action and coerced action. Freedom is a moral principle that differentiates voluntary action from coercion. Political freedom is difficult for some people to understand because it is not the presence of something, but rather the absence of governmental constraints. Furthermore, it has been said that freedom is not a means to a higher political end. It is the highest political end attainable. Lobbying. Oh boy, I learned a lot about that this year. That is the intention of influencing decisions made by legislators and officials in government by individuals, other legislators, constituencies, or advocacy groups. A lobbyist is a person who tries to influence legislation on behalf of special interest or a member of a lobby. Also, governments often define, regulate, and organize group lobbying that has become become quite influential. In fact, it's burying us. The First Amendment gives the people the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. It does not give individuals, such as lobbyists, the right to bribe politicians for special interest clients. The lobbyist does not always lobby in the best interest of the citizens, but for the special interest who feathers his nest. Many people have confused rights with entitlements and condone the unconstitutional redistribution of the wealth by government, which is obviously a violation of property rights. They don't feel as though collecting taxes for financial benefits is like receiving stolen property. However, that is what it is. Today, the rule of law is overridden by the rule of consensus. In other words, because a majority votes for something, it's okay to make everyone pay for it. This is democracy, collectivism, majority rule. Activists, or well-organized minorities who impose their will on everyone, have obliterated the meaning of freedom. If we consider the original rights expressed in the Declaration of Independence, defended by the Constitution, it should be clear there is a massive difference between those rights, life, liberty, property, and the plethora of entitlement programs being confused as rights. For example, the right to employment, a minimum wage, a certain quality of housing, freedom from economic insecurity, and numerous other programs that have been lobbied for by special interests. The original rights were rights to live by one's own personal effort without government interference. That's what our founding fathers were declaring independence from, the tyranny of King George. Their intent was to have all people united, working together voluntarily to ensure prosperity for all, without the heavy coercive hand of government. Punishing success and rewarding failure creates dissension that sets all the members of society on divergent paths. The greatest thing that you can do for society is to take care of yourself so you don't place burdens on others. If you find yourself in need, you must rely on the voluntary goodwill and magnanimity of your fellow man, not on government. Government has no constitutional right to place burdens on some people for the unearned benefit of others. There's a huge difference between voluntary giving of your own money to programs and charities of your choice than having it extracted by force by an omnipotent government. I sincerely hope that our fate is not like that of the eagle in Libyan folklore, who, when struck by an arrow, said as he viewed the fashion of the shaft, "It is not by the hand of others, but by our own feathers that we are smitten." And with that, I am very fortunate tonight to be able to introduce a young man who I met about 4 years ago, and it happened to be one of those times I was going up to a convention, and I honestly thought that I would be the only Ron Paul supporter there. And I met this man, handsome young man, and I found out he was a farmer from all walks of life. These people were coming out of the woodwork. And then I met him again after we kind of lost miserably and got squelched, and he came to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning, and my husband hollered up the stairs, "There's some young man, and he's sitting here in this big old truck looking for some big old signs for LePage, and I don't know, do you know who that is?" So I came out in my pajamas, and there was the greatest freedom fighter in the House of Representatives today, and I can't tell you how fortunate we all are to have a man who understands the Constitution of the United States, understands freedom, and he will deliver. That man is Representative Aaron